up, everybody? Garrett back here, and spooky season is upon us, and like always, I want to try to give you a little bit of a watch list, or movies to add to your spooky season watch list. I do this every year, and it seems like a lot of other YouTubers and people that are into the horror genre do the same thing as well, but I want to take it a different route this year. I wanted to give you 10 movies that revolve around Halloween that I think you guys might have missed. All right, the first one I want to talk about is from 2007. I remember when this came out, it had a little bit of hype behind it, but then it kind of just fell to the wayside and people stopped kind of talking about it. But when Vinegar Syndrome announced that partner label Magnet was putting this out on Blu-ray, it got a little bit more of a resurgence. So if you haven't checked this out, now might be a good time. And that is Murder Party from 2007. A pretty cool movie. I remember when I got this DVD when it came out, it kind of had a lot of hype behind it. And basically it's about this guy who gets an invitation to a Halloween party, a costume party. And he dresses up in a costume and shows up and they kidnap him. And there's a little bit more about this Halloween party that meets the eye. Now, what's cool about this is you got a group of characters that, it comes off as kind of a horror comedy, right? So there's a lot of blood, gore, splatter, but there's a lot of comedic elements to this as well. Again, what I always was drawn to was I'm a huge fan of the movie The Warriors, and one of the dudes in this costume is actually one of the Baseball Furies, which I think is super cool. That was a costume I wore back in the day as well. I thought that was really, really cool here. So this is the brand new Blu-ray from Magnet. Like I said, you can get it on the Vinegar Syndrome site unless it's sold out, which I am not totally sure, so I apologize if it is. But the DVD should be readily available, and this is Murder Party. All right, here's an 80s slasher movie that takes place around Halloween. It's not one that many people ever talk about. And if you follow my series Monster Radness, I talked about this recently on a little short on Instagram. But this is 1982's Trick or Treats, not Trick or Treat, not Trick or Treat, Trick or Treat. So this is the one that not many people ever talk about. And I found that people that have seen it either love it or they're not the biggest fans of it. I actually love this one. It has a Halloween vibe. It's basically about this woman who gets her husband kind of put away, saying that he's psychotic. So it's really so she can start a life with somebody else. But he comes out around Halloween and he comes back to torment her to get his revenge. But she is not home. The babysitter's home. So he's going back to the house. And not only is the babysitter getting tormented by him, but she's also getting tormented by the kid she's babysitting. So this kid kind of pulls tricks on her and stuff like that. I find this is a really cool Halloween vibey movie. Trick or Treats. You get a lot of kind of like tricks in this one. So I think this is really cool. So guys, check this out. This is a Blu-ray by Code Red. Now again, I apologize. I'm not sure if this is still available or not. I do believe Kino might have re-released this, but check it out. I'm sure it's probably streaming somewhere, but that is 1982's Trick or Treats. All right, this next one is a slasher from 1995. This one is one that no one ever talks about. It had a DVD. I know it had a very limited Blu-ray release that I actually missed, and it's long out of print now, but I do know that you can watch this on YouTube, and that is Jacko. So Jacko is a pretty cool movie. Check out that character right there. That's Jacko. He's like a jack-o'-lantern head killer, a supernatural slasher who's risen to terrorize this kid and his family and the babysitter, who is played by Linnea Quigley. So very cool 90s slasher that is very Halloween oriented, and that is Jacko. All right, the next one is a brand new film. Brand new. This Blu-ray like just came out or it's coming out. I was lucky enough to get sent this by Dread to check out. And it's one I wanted to bring up because not many people talk about it, but I have something I want to say. And that is a movie called Diced or Diced, I guess. But take a look at this character here. This is Benny. He's like a scarecrow. And he's kind of put away, but he escapes the asylum and starts slashing and gashing his way through town on Halloween. Now, man, this movie here, it says, Meet Benny, the new face of evil. Now, Dread is putting out some of these movies where they're really looking to create some new horror icons, similar to what they did with Terrifier and Art the Clown and stuff like that. But this is Benny. Now, I will say something about this movie. This is a very Terrifier-heavy ripoff of a movie. And I say that both in a good and a bad way. I actually really enjoyed this one. I actually had fun with this one. The music is awesome. It's all synth, the same way Terrifier is. There's actually even a scene in this that takes place in a diner that is very reminiscent to the first Terrifier film. That scene that really got Art over where he was like tormenting the girls. There's pretty much the exact same scene in here. So they really did try to take Terrifier and basically kind of remake it with a different character. So it's kind of interesting. I do recommend checking this out just for the idea that they're trying to create this new character, this Benny Scarecrow character. But how much influence the movie Terrifier had on this is kind of mind-blowing. But like I said, I had fun with this one. I really, really did. And that is a brand new movie called Diced. All right, here's an 80s flick I actually brought up recently on a live stream. I talked about movies that are on Tubi that would be great for spooky season, and this was one of them. This is a very overlooked movie. This is a movie that I watched as a kid, and it still works for me as an adult. Definitely the Halloween vibe, definitely the Halloween setting. This is really cool. It's got a great, vibe to it. It's very scenic around this time of year. And this is 1987's Lady in White. Very cool. This reminds me, if you're familiar with the movie Watcher in the Woods, this would be a great double feature with that. This is like a very gateway horror movie. This feels like something Disney would have put out back in the 80s, or maybe like a feature-length Are You Afraid of the Dark episode. But I really, really recommend this. It's kind of a coming-of-age story. It's horror elements. It's spooky. It's about this kid and his family, and this kid kind of witnesses a murder. He's kind of trying to put the pieces together of what he witnessed and what he saw. And there's a lot of supernatural elements to this as well. So very spooky. This is Lady in White. I think this is like a perfect movie to watch around this time of year. All right, out of all the ones on my list here, this is the least horror related, but definitely takes place around Halloween. And that is a movie called Kenny and Company. This is a Don Coscarelli film. This is pre-Phantasm. So a lot of the same characters from Phantasm are in this movie. A lot of the same actors and stuff. This is pre-Phantasm. This is an Anchor Bay DVD, which I will unfortunately say, this movie is very hard to find now. And I've talked to Don Coscarelli personally and said, where's Kenny and Company? Can we get an upgrade? He said, I sold it to Disney. They were supposed to put it out. They acquired Marvel and all the superhero stuff. It got put on the back burner. My goal is to try to get it back so you guys can get it again on an upgraded, format like a Blu-ray or a 4K. Now, has that happened since the last time I talked to him? I don't know. But Kenny and Company is a great coming-of-age story that it kind of ends around Halloween night. So it kind of brings you back to being a kid of either the 70s or 80s. And, you're going through school and you're dealing with a lot of these problems that kids of this age would have. You go to birthday parties in this movie. So it really does bring me back to being a kid of this time and how important Halloween was and playing tricks with your friends. And it was awesome. I absolutely love this movie. Such a great coming of age movie that takes place around this time of year. No one ever talks about it. There's 2 people that I know that love this movie, and I never heard anybody else mention it except for me and them. So Kenny and Company. I think you can probably get this on YouTube, maybe streaming. As far as the physical media, it's very, very hard to come by. But Kenny and Company is definitely a cool coming-of-age story that takes place around Halloween. All right, this next one is an interesting one, a little bit of a hot take, I guess, because everybody talks about Halloween movies. They're like, oh, Night of the Demons, and I totally agree. Night of the Demons movies are great movies to watch around Halloween. That opening scene, that opening song always gets me in the Halloween feels. But what doesn't get a lot of love, which I think should, is the remake of Night of the Demons from 2010. Monica Keena, you've got Shannon Elizabeth, Edward Furlong is in this, so it's got a pretty known cast. But this does take place around Halloween as well, actually Halloween night, I believe. In the same story, they get invited to Angela's party. But man, I actually found this to be awesome. This is a real cool remake. I think they do a hell of a job. I think the effects are really good. The characters look really good. The vibe of the movie is really good. So if you try to steer clear of remakes, you're like, ugh, Night of the Demon remake, I don't want to watch that. I highly recommend you watching this, and around this time of year, it really, really fits. All right, the next one is another 2000s jam. I found this in a Walmart $5 bin back in the day and gave it a chance, and I loved it. And Synapse just kind of came out with a Blu-ray last year, and this is one that I think if you know it, you probably love it. If you don't know it, I recommend checking it out because it's such a unique movie. And that is Satan's Little Helper. I did a whole video reviewing this movie when it came out on Blu-ray. But this is a real fun movie. It's basically about this kid. It takes place around Halloween. You get a real cool Halloween vibe of all the houses decorated and stuff like that. Super, super cool. And he meets the devil, Satan. And he becomes his best friend. And he kind of has him doing these bad things. But it's also fun as hell. These two kind of hanging out and doing these crazy things, this kid and this guy here. But awesome, awesome movie. Fun as hell. That is perfect for this Halloween season. All right, I have two more to talk about. None of these are in order, but this one is one that came out in the 2000s as well. And this movie blew me away when I saw this for the first time. This is coming straight off something like Drive. I was a huge fan of Drive. I still am. But this came out, I checked it out. It had a very similar feeling to Drive. But the other hand, it had a very similar feeling to Terminator. And you mash those together, I'm like, dude, this movie rocks. And this is called The Guest. Now, this is another one of those movies, if you've seen it, I think people love it, but I don't think enough people have seen this movie, especially when that Blu-ray and DVD first came out, because the cover art they used was super, super lame. I feel like it really took away of what this movie really was, and it's basically about this guy who visits a family and says, hey, listen, I'm your son's best friend. He died at war. I want to help you guys. I want to take care of you guys. But something's not right with this dude. Something is not right. He's charming, but there's kind of a mean streak here. He's got a good heart, but he's violent, right? So this is an awesome movie. And the same thing like I said about other movies in this, the soundtrack in this kicks so much ass. It's all that synth wave. It's really, really badass. This is full of action. And what's nice about this and why it's on the list is it does take place around Halloween. And what's funny is the Silver Shamrock masks make a little appearance in this movie as well. So when I saw that for the first time, I really did kind of mark out and be like, oh my God, this movie is awesome. It's got everything I wanted in a movie. And this is one that I think is super overlooked. And I do think this is a great movie to kind of change it up around Halloween. All right, so the last movie I'm going to talk about is actually a movie I don't even own on physical media at all because I don't think it even has a physical media release. And if it does, it's probably overseas and very hard to come by. I think this is even hard to watch now. Maybe it's still streaming, but that's where I saw this for the first time. Now, I don't know why this doesn't have a Blu-ray release or a 4K release because this movie kicks so much ass. And it's a movie called Boys in the Trees. Now, with a name like that, you're thinking to yourself, what the hell is that? Doesn't sound cool at all. But it's awesome. It takes place around Halloween. It's kind of a coming-of-age story mixed with horror. You've got ghosts. You've got violence. I mean, this is a cool-ass movie. And I wish I could talk more about it, but it's been quite a few years since I've seen it. I saw it when it debuted, I think, on streaming or something, back maybe in 2019 or something like that, but it was a while ago. And I always loved this flick, and I don't know why we haven't seen it since. Maybe you guys in the comments section could tell me why this has kind of vanished. But it's called Boys in the Trees, and if you can find it on streaming or YouTube, I highly recommend checking it out. Now, guys, that was 10 overlooked movies that take place around Halloween that I think you should add to your spooky season watch list. So if you've seen any of these movies, definitely let me know down below what you think of them. Is there any other ones that could have been added to this list that take place around Halloween, but you never hear anybody talk about them? I did have other ones that I could have added to this list that are more like indie, low budget type stuff. But again, I felt like these were a perfect 10 to try to get you to sneak in this year before the Halloween season is over. Now, guys, thank you for checking this out. Make sure to hit that like, subscribe, and hype button because there's so much more content coming your way. Now, this is Garrett at Born2beRad, and like always, stay